This week on the Rutledge Perspective, we're going to be focusing on the one thing. What is that one thing you're going to focus on this minute, this hour, this week, this month, this year that is going to move you forward? And more importantly, what is that one thing that you can focus on that enables you to put everything else in perspective so that you can make a conscious decision about where you're going to spend your resources, being time, energy, money? So let's dive in really quickly. This came about because I was looking at my list of to-dos and all of the things that I had to not done. And the list keeps getting longer and longer, and I add things. And as I forget, I'll put it down because I'm a list maker. And if I have it on the list, at least it's not on my brain and on my spirit, and I'm not worried about it. If I write it down, I don't worry that I'm going to forget it. The problem with that is that you end up writing it down and then your list just keeps getting longer. So that visual of all the stuff that you haven't accomplished gets to be a concern. It gets to be a problem and drives nervousness and anxiety in and of itself. So how do we do something different? We focus on the one thing. You know, in David Goggins' book, he talks about doing that one thing you hate every day. I'm going to take that a different step, right? What is that thing on your list that as you're looking at serving others, as you're looking at doing things for you, doing things for other people, what is the one thing that you're going to prioritize this minute, this hour, this day, and get that done so you can move forward? For some people, it's I'm going to focus on the stuff that I can move out quickly, right? That way I know that stuff is done, and then I can really focus on the thing that's going to take me longer time. Other people are the exact opposite. Let me take the thing that's going to take much longer, much more of my energy, and do that first, and then I can get to the other stuff. But here's the more important piece of focusing on the one thing. When you focus on the one thing and that one thing is tied to the objectives that you have, right? Here's what I'm trying to accomplish overall. Here's the one thing that's aligned with that I'm going to focus on today. It enables you to also build in flexibility and adaptability into your day. Because if you get additional information as you move along, okay, here's my goal. Here was the one thing I was going to do. I just got some additional information. I can make a conscious decision. Do I need to change my priority, or can I just add this other thing to the list? As opposed to, oh my gosh, okay, now I just got to change everything. Because we've taken the time to decide what that one thing is we're going to work on, we can sit in that situation of power, right? That idea of, no, I'm in control of my schedule and I'm in control of how I use my resources, and make a definitive decision to do or not to do something else. It's really the same principle behind many people telling you when they do time management, never check your email the first thing in the morning. Never, never, never check your email the first thing in the morning, because that email then sets your day. Instead, you take the time to prioritize your day. What are the things you're going to get done today? Why do you want to get them done today? Why is very important. Why do those need to get done today? So that you set your intentions, you're ready to move through. And as you get information throughout the day, you can make a decision as to whether or not those new pieces of information change your list of priorities, change your focus. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. But at least you have a baseline that you are given that helps you decide, what do I want to do? And how do I want to do it? But if we don't focus on that one thing, we get overwhelmed by the massive number of things that need to happen. I look sometimes at my house because I have a clutter challenge. Those of you who have been listening to me a long time know that I have a clutter issue. But I had to put that in perspective. And I talked about that on the radio show this morning. I had to put that in perspective because the clutter makes me crazy. It really does. So why I continue to have a clutter issue, I have no idea, because logic would say clutter bothers you, don't have clutter. Easy, right? Here's the issue. When I change my perspective on the clutter and change the clutter into a tool and not a weapon, right? A weapon to beat myself up with and degrade myself. And I can't believe you're doing this again. Are you serious, Laurel? You got this clutter issue again. I change it into a tool, and that is a early indicator for me that I need to pause and regroup, because cluttered space means my mind is cluttered. My mind is messy. So if I start to see stuff piling up around me, right? I start to see too much mail. I start to see too much stuff not in the right place. It is an indicator for me that my mind is messy. And so I can go through, I clean up my space which cleans up and clears out my mind, which gives me an opportunity to get back to that creative space, back to that drive and that vision, that zone of genius to move towards the objectives that I've set for myself. But if I've stayed in that position of it being a weapon, then I can't utilize it in order to help me figure out what is that one thing I need to do so that I'm focusing my energy in the best way to get the outcome that I'm looking for. So looking at your list, looking at all these things you need to do, what is your ultimate goal? What is your ultimate goal for that day? Don't necessarily look at your 5-year or your 15-year goal. What is your goal for that day? And how do the things on your list tie into that goal? Is today a business development day? Is today a team engagement day? Is today a tactical expense report, other reporting kind of efforts day? What is the goal of today? And then look at all the things on your list you have to do and how do those tie into the goal? I had someone tell me about a calendar management process where you marked things for entrepreneurs, where you marked things as green if they were actually revenue generating. You marked them as red as if they were cost, right, generating, and yellow if they were neutral. And that visual, because I'm a visual person, actually makes a lot of sense. And if you start looking at your calendar and looking at your to-do list, how much of your to-do list actually moves you towards the goal you have? If it's a revenue goal, how much on that list is green and how much on that list is red or yellow? And of the red or yellow, how much energy is that taking that could take away from the stuff that's green, that could actually be driving revenue to your business? If your goal right now is team engagement, how many things are you doing today that actually engage your people? How many calls are you making? How many meetings do you have? How many touch bases are you doing? What are you doing in terms of communication, in terms of connection to drive engagement today of all of those things you have? Is that additional getting that report out really going to drive engagement? Now, if it's about communication, it's about information that people need, maybe it will. Or if it's a commitment you made, maybe it will. But I'm wondering if engagement is the real issue. Is it really the conversation that you need to have, or that really quick call to just say, hey, I'm just checking on you, that really gets you closer to the goal? What is the goal? And then what is the one thing that you should be doing to get you closer to the goal? And then once you do that one thing, what is the next one thing you can do? Because for those of us who like to be organized and like to have lists and have things checked off, there's such joy for me when I get to put a check by something on the list. Or like I use the notes in Mac, and every time you put the check circle beside it, when you check it off, it like moves to the bottom of the list and has a line drawn through it. There are a few things that are more gratifying than see that thing turn color, have a line through it, and drop to the bottom of the list. It's just beautiful. Makes my soul sing to see things come off the list. Now, I generally add a couple once that comes off, but it's nice to see some things come off. But as I looked through the list the other day and I thought about where I'm trying to go and really trying to reset and looking at these lines of business that I'm putting together and how I can really get focused and really aligned around that so that I'm continuing to be in my purpose and in my zone of genius, the list kept getting longer and longer. And then there you go, right into dorsal, right? We've talked about that, polyvagal theory, right into dorsal. You have so much stuff on your list that you do nothing. There's so many things to do that nothing gets accomplished. It's that fallacy of multitasking, right? Oh, I'm a great multitasker. Well, we're just really great at doing a lot of things at the same time, but that doesn't mean we do them well. That just means we do them. And not necessarily doing them with excellence may not be the issue. It may just be getting stuff done. That may be the goal. But if it's not, how do we take one step at a time? And that's a bigger challenge for us, especially as Americans, right? There's so much stuff to do. There's so much noise. There's so much chaos. There's so much stuff. How do we get still, look at our list, understand what the goal is and the objective is for the day, and find that one thing that we're going to do first? But we got to get still. We got to get quiet. We got to move the noise out. We got to understand our goal and be really clear on it. And we got to be flexible and adaptable enough that we can hear other information that comes in and we can respond to that new information. Because that new information may in fact change our list and change priorities. And that's okay. I talked about it this morning. I used to work at this organization where you had timelines and you had projects and you put the project plan together and you had the date and all of these kind of things. And heaven forbid additional information come in and you have to change the date. It was like the world came to an end. We are not good people if you move a date. That's insane. Even really great project managers understand sometimes the date moves or the scope changes. And sometimes you got to pick one of those because some information has come in that says the original plan is simply not going to be successful. But if we don't allow ourselves the flexibility when we're determining what our objective is and then picking that one thing, if we don't allow ourselves the ability to make changes, we find ourselves in that constant churn. We're just checking stuff off the list, mindlessly checking things off the list. And if you're just going through it as a checklist, how do you know you're still meeting your objective of your ultimate goal? How do you know you're really still moving along the path to where you're supposed to be? If you haven't taken the time to say, let me be still. Is there another piece of information that I have gathered or that has come to my attention? And how does that impact what I decided to do 20 minutes ago, 2 days ago, 10 years ago? And based on that impact, do I need to do something different? We all have choices, and there is an ability to change and to morph and to move. It's when we get stubborn and static and that refusal to accept new information that will impact what we're trying to do. That's where we get stuck. That's where we get stagnant. And that's where we end up trying to miss or having the opportunity to miss our goals or miss our objectives because we're refusing to engage in additional information and understand what, if any way, it can impact what we're trying to do. But if we focus on one thing, if we focus just on one thing, all of our energy on getting this one thing done, when we look at information that comes in, we can first make it pretty myopic. Is that going to impact this one thing I said I'm going to do? Nope. So I can keep doing that. But since it's new information, I know it's not going to impact this, so I can keep going. But is it going to impact the next thing I was going to do? Do I need to make a change down the list? And I can file that information away. I can get the first thing done, and then I can look at the list again. Or if I'm disciplined enough, I can look at my full list. Does this make a difference? Not in the one thing, but it may make difference in 2, 3, and 10. Then I can make choices there too. But sometimes we sit in the overwhelm of our list, the overwhelm of all the stuff we got to get done, because if we don't get it done, then somehow we failed. If we don't get it done, then somehow we haven't moved forward. We haven't made progress. And sometimes the progress is just getting the list done and evaluating whether the list even makes any sense. And sometimes the progress is actually taking action to complete something and anything in between on that continuum. But in order for us to even understand that, we have to understand what is the one thing that's going to make us get closer to our goal today, in this minute, in this hour, in this week. So as you move forward in this week, and you start looking at your lists and all the demands on your time and everything you've got to do for your team and everything you got to do for everybody else, pause. Practice the pause. Pause. Get still. Get quiet. Where am I trying to go? And why am I trying to get there? And if I look at all these things on my list, what is the one thing that I can do in this moment, in this hour, in this day that's going to get me closer to that goal? And let me focus on that. And when that's done, then I can go to the next thing. And oh, by the way, let me evaluate it every 45 minutes, every half hour, every 4 hours. So I know that I'm still on track, that I'm still moving where I'm supposed to be, but it's still in this one thing. I wish you the best of luck because this is a pot kettle conversation. I am looking at my list right now. It's in my periphery of all the things I've gone on. And as soon as I finish this recording, I will be going back through my list and evaluating what the one thing is I'm going to finish today. And what the one thing is I am absolutely going to accomplish this week. And then everything else can fall in line. Let me know. I'd love to know what your one thing is. And it doesn't have to be business related. Because the other one thing I'm going to do that's a personal one is I'm going to get these things to dress for success. I'm going to get this clutter out of my house and these things that can be helpful to someone else because they're not serving anyone by sitting in here gathering dust. So how can I serve others through also getting things off my list? Have a fantastic rest of your week. Let me know what your one thing is, and we'll catch you next time on The Rutledge Perspective. Take care. You've been watching The Rutledge Perspective. Thank you for tuning in.
If we have given you a different perspective, or if you've learned something new that you hadn't thought about before, please subscribe to the Rutledge Perspective Podcast where you get your favorite podcasts, and give us a like on iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher. We really appreciate it. And your feedback is important as well, as we use that to inform our next episodes. You can also head over to my website, laurelrutledge.com, and download a freebie called Where's My Mojo that can really help you get out of your rut or maybe talk you back off that ledge of frustration. You can also find previous episodes of the Rutledge Perspective on laurelrutledge.com. I really appreciate your tuning in. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.